Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with another round of video game news. Today we are focusing on Bethesda as they've been hit with a surprise twist, and I think we as well have been hit with a smidge of a surprise twist as it's been announced that Shinji Mikami is leaving Tango Gameworks. Now you may see this video and think, well, what's the significance of that? But we're talking about a legend in the business leaving his own company and what this means for the future of Tango. You see, Tango really wasn't on the map for many up until Hi-Fi Rush. For me, I love The Evil Within 1. I have mixed feelings about 2, but Hi-Fi Rush is nothing short of fantastic. So many have found the timing curious. You just had your most successful game, why are you out? I did some research, I did some digging. We're gonna cover the entire story here today on what's going on with Bethesda and Tango Gameworks and just calm the masses who may be reacting to this in a negative way. So ladies and gentlemen, if you are new here, you're into Bethesda news and information, you're in the right place, consider subscribing. Let's begin at the top where the story broke overnight last night. This is the second video this week where we have news breaking at 2, 3 in the morning, and I'm like, okay, I guess tomorrow's video is probably set. We'll see what else happens. And so this was the biggest story of the day. So let's get started over at trueachievements.com where they broke the story, and they had an excerpt of an email sent by Todd Vaughn, who's senior VP over at Bethesda, and here are some noteworthy quotes from it. I am writing today to let you know that studio head Shinji Mikami has decided to leave Tango Gameworks in the coming months, Vaughn said. Mikami-san has been a creative leader and supportive mentor to young developers at Tango for 12 years through his work on the Evil Within franchise, Ghostwire Tokyo, and of course, Hi-Fi Rush. In the email, Vaughn called Hi-Fi Rush one of the most successful launches for Bethesda and Xbox in recent years, adding that the rhythm-based action game has generated significant positive momentum for the business and Tango. I know the news isn't about that today, but we just need to acknowledge that Hi-Fi Rush is being considered by Bethesda in recent years, so I'm thinking Doom Eternal, Deathloop as fantastic games that did really well for them, and they're saying that Hi-Fi Rush is amongst the best of the best. That is really exciting because I think many of us want to see this become a series. The idea of Peppermint being fully playable, expanding that combat system, expanding the rhythm-based mechanics. There's so much potential in Hi-Fi Rush, and it feels like we're just scratching the surface of what that series can do. So I imagine a Hi-Fi Rush 2 is on the way, but Mikami is out, and this was subsequently confirmed by Bethesda in the morning today, where they posted a tweet with the following statement. We can confirm that Shinji Mikami has decided to leave Tango Gameworks in the coming months. We thank him for his work as a creative leader and supportive mentor to young developers on the Evil Within franchise, Ghostwire Tokyo, and of course, Hi-Fi Rush. We wish Mikami-san well in the future and are excited by what lies ahead for the talented developers at Tango. Okay, first question is probably why? Shinji Mikami is a legend in this business, the father of survival horror. He was there from the very beginning with Resident Evil. He went off, made his own company with Tango Gameworks. He brought in a lot of young developers, has served in a mentor role for quite some time now. He also worked on the likes of Vanquish, Beautiful Joe. I mean, when I say legendary, my man's track record will be talked about in video game history for eternity. Like, he has done some significant things. Now, you heard a key number there, 33 years. He's been at it for a while now, okay? So let's roll back the clock a little bit to the media promotion for Ghostwire Tokyo. This came out just at the top of last year from Tango, and we thought that'd be it from them for a while, and that the first Xbox Tango game would be the Xbox port of Ghostwire. Well, during that media promotion, here is what Mikami had to say. Speaking to Video Games 24/7 as part of the media promotion for Ghostwire Tokyo, which he is executive producing. We'll go circle back around to that in a moment. Shinji Mikami hinted that he wants to personally direct one last game before retiring. There's no telling when that will happen though. In the same interview, Mikami-san also said that his beloved survival horror genre is not at its peak, suggesting he may want to wait a bit for this last production. This isn't the first time that Mikami has suggested that he may want to retire, but the timing is curious, right? That he is leaving the studio now following Tango's biggest success. I want to circle back to what Todd Vaughn wrote in his email, because calling Hi-Fi Rush among some of the most successful that Bethesda's put out in recent years is noteworthy, given that Tango has sort of been the bottom tier studio, if you will, when it comes to the whole Bethesda makeup. You of course have Bethesda Game Studios, you have Arkane, these are your top tier studios, you have id, and then you have like Tango sort of in the middle to bottom area. And they've never really been able to punch above their weight until finally now with Hi-Fi Rush. I loved the first Evil Within. I thought it was fantastic, but a lot of people were pretty lukewarm on it. A lot of folks were also kind of lukewarm on Evil Within 2, but as the years go on, I see more positive talk about it. And then Hi-Fi Rush has received universal praise. It's done very well. It's clearly the company's most successful game. So some folks may go, why now when you just had your most successful title? Well, what a lot of people don't know is that Mikami's been in a bit of a mentor role for over the last decade. He hasn't directed a game in over 10 years. In fact, he's served as executive producer on the company's last 2 games. Now, every company functions differently in what each role means to a particular person, but typically speaking, executive producing is like, we'll say, overviewing a project, providing advice, helping manage the project, so on and so forth. Not it's his vision from top to bottom, right? Who's actually been spearheading the last 2 projects is John Johannes, and this name may be familiar to you because it's become very popular as of late when it comes to Hi-Fi Rush. He has directed Hi-Fi Rush. He directed The Evil Within 2. This is noteworthy because I view this moment here as Shinji probably taking some time off and passing the torch. You see, his whole team was built around helping out younger developers. And I really love that philosophy, by the way. We don't see many other teams at all making that almost a studio mantra, but that is where Shinji is really slotted in for Tango. Of course, he's the CEO and founder of the company, but he is really trying to help that younger talent and let them explore and encourage their ideas. You know, the DNA, the makeup of Tango was of course horror games, but now you see what happens when they do something different like Hi-Fi Rush. They show they have so much more potential, so much more talent, and they've become honestly a lot more relevant to the broader public. Some folks have worried though, does Mikami's exit mean the end of The Evil Within 3? I don't think this is the case. All right, so if you're playing Hi-Fi Rush, you'll notice there's a ton of Easter eggs. There's these encounters you can have with Sebastian from time to time, as well as Joseph. I adore these segments. They make me laugh out loud each and every time because it's just Sebastian, who's typically a quiet character. He gets quite existential in what he's going on about. It's hilarious. But that's not the only Easter egg for The Evil Within. There's actually towards a certain part in the game, I won't spoil when, that when you're going onto an elevator, you'll see on the bottom there is a line that says, sequel to popular survival horror game franchise announced. Given that the team who has made Hi-Fi Rush happens to own a survival horror franchise that people are asking about a third entry for, to me seems like a pretty deliberate tease. And I don't think many of us expected The Evil Within to be done, you know, but of course after Ghostwire and now Hi-Fi Rush, I'd say Tango was going through a phase where they wanted to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Very similar to me with Arkane. Now Arkane's made top tier games like Dishonored, Prey, but they've never been super financially, super player count wise successful on both sides of the coin. Now we've learned with Deathloop, they've actually struck some gold here. 5 million players. Of course, that's including Game Pass, but this started off as a PlayStation 5 exclusive that reviewed extremely well. So now they've sort of found their footing, and make no mistake, I think they're going to go forward with something like Deathloop 2. But I don't think that means that they're going to abandon fully things like Dishonored. I'd treat what's happening at Tango Gameworks the exact same. They found their gold, right? They finally have one where it's like, this is our thing. It's unique, it's fun, and more importantly for the business, it's super popular. Okay, let's move forward with this. Probably going to do a sequel of some kind. Now, this doesn't mean that it's the end of The Evil Within, because again, you got to remember, let's go back to a time where we were all ignorant and thought after Ghostwire Tokyo, that was it for a while. And they were working on Hi-Fi Rush at the same time and dropped it a year later. So we can still get our hands on Evil Within 3 much sooner than I think many of us are expecting. I think it'll still be some years down the line, But this tease wasn't just placed here for no reason. Like, it's deliberately there for fans to pick up on it. The game is loaded with little Easter eggs and cool teases and just such love and care to it. I'll just say, and I won't spoil it for you all, but if you're playing the final boss and you actually leave and you shut off your game and come back, it changes the dialogue entirely when you talk to your party members. It's a great video online. You should check it out. So nothing here was put without extra thought in Hi-Fi Rush. So I think this means that The Evil Within 3 is pretty secure. And given the fact that the director of The Evil Within 2 is still at the team, I think that's the most important part, which will secure the future of that franchise. And I think now is the perfect time to strike. Survival horror is up on the rise, and it is looking fantastic. This is mostly thanks to Capcom and their efforts with Resident Evil 7 is where it really began, but then they went and did 2 remake, 3 remake, and now survival horror is really popping more. You've got games like Callisto Protocol, which some people really dug, but I'd say more relevant to all of us is Dead Space Remake, which is still my game of the year. Just absolutely fantastic. So it seems like now's the right time for The Evil Within to come back and try once more. And for me, I hope they go back to the roots of Game 1. Game 2 felt a little too much like The Last of Us. Is that a hot take? Because that's how I felt about it. It wasn't a bad game, and certainly the post-launch support for it was awesome with a first-person mode, for example. I love that they really hung with it, even though it didn't do extremely well, and they certainly listened to feedback. Sebastian was more of a personal character, but it just felt too open-worldy, and I was looking for more of that tension, that tightness that we'd find in the first game. But still, a lot of people didn't even like the first game, and that just blows my mind. So I think this is actually not something we need to overreact to. I think everything that's happened at Tango is just fine. Mikami's been signaling for a while that he's going to be out of the game soon. Now he is, and it's a great time to leave. Leave on a big success. Don't have your next game be a complete flop or a middling reception and go, all right, I guess I'm out. As a creative, you want to leave in a state of, you know, feeling like you've completed the goal, right? You've done everything. So he can keep his head held high and know that he left on a strong note as a legend. And if he comes back, which I imagine he eventually will, I can't wait to see what he works on. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's what's going on with Bethesda. That's what's going on with Tango Gameworks and Xbox in general. A lot of folks were also blaming Xbox. I find that to be crazy, again, given that he's been signaling that he's going to be leaving for a while now. So that's what's going on with Shinji Mikami. That's what's going on with Tango. Salute to Mikami-san, absolute legend. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think of the news? Fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the heck out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.